Hello, and thanks for returning today. Previously in my not-so-normal life, I pulled your strings and reviewed Pinocchio. Here is how Pinocchio compares. Storyline. As a single dad, this movie feels real and somewhat raw to me. It acts as great allegory for single parents or parents who want to adopt a child. This movie shows both the hardships and the love of single or adoptive parenting. I enjoyed it far more than I remembered, and it even managed to squeeze a tear from me twice. The biggest thing that sets apart this storyline is the real-world issues that this story parallels. Adoption, single parenting, the plight of the marginalized, and human trafficking are all discussed in this movie as secondary plot points. Pinocchio and Geppetto serve as examples of a very loving non-bio parent relationship. It's not a perfect parallel, though, because the relationship seems to blossom over what I can only assume is a 48-hour period. But it's Disney. Most major life decisions in the land of Disney take only about 5 minutes to decide.
The gleam in your eyes is so familiar, a gleam.
The two darker elements are human trafficking and the marginalization of the oppressed. Do you ever wonder why there are only 2 talking humanoid animals in this movie? Even for Disney, which is rife with humanoid animals, this is a weird situation. All the other characters are humans. But could it be that these animals are to indicate, without expressly pointing to, marginalized people groups? And yes, showing marginalized people groups as animals is problematic to say the least. But given the time in history, this representation may have been a step in the right direction.
Well, first of all, I had to stick my head through a hole in a piece of canvas, and people throwed baseballs at me. Oh, well, boy, you must be independent. No, but that darn bull is.
The parallel is clear. Marginalized group of people are expressly considered other for some reason. These people are then up against a system that is rigged or bent against them. Since the legal system is bent against these people, other means of success are chosen, albeit in a vein that might be less than legal. Or they turn to show business. Okay, not totally fair. But as of the 1940s, yeah, this was a thing. Harlem had some particularly egregious examples of this kind of exploitation.
Blacks really weren't allowed to come in, really. And we knew that. But we worked under those conditions. We didn't like that one bit. But what could we do?
Today, it can still be a thing.
There's 15 black people on that montage.
Pinocchio's values stand in stark contrast to that of Snow White.
Give a little whistle. Give a little whistle.
Another interesting thread to this storyline is the lack of a true villain. Sure, there are bad characters, but they seem to be there for the sole purpose of showing that it's not always easy to navigate right and wrong. Pinocchio does not need someone to battle because he is battling himself. He's both the protagonist and the antagonist. This is pretty postmodern stuff for 1940. Pinocchio's decisions are the driving force of the conflict, and I love that because it's so true to real life. How frequently do people really have an antagonist? Even in the cases of people I really don't like, I can at least see some fault of my own that contributed to the issues at hand. There is a great truth found in my decisions creating my own conflict. And as Pinocchio overcomes his obstacles, he moves from selfish, naive child to self-sacrificing for his father. But in comparison to Snow White, Pinocchio had stellar use of storyline, and this week it is number 1 in that category. Music. Storyline had a lot to unpack in it, so I'm going to try, keyword being try, to keep these next couple sections short and sweet. I made no mistake last week that I'm not really a fan of Snow White's voice. However, the difference between the scores here is that Pinocchio's score sometimes uses its surrounding to organically create music. And why belabor it? Pinocchio is number 1 for music this week. Animation. The backgrounds are beautiful on both of these movies because backgrounds can have a higher level of attention given them. However, I think the backgrounds of Snow White are actually better than the backgrounds on Pinocchio But when I look at Snow White's character against these ornate stones and foliage, she looks out of place. However, Pinocchio and Honest John look intentional in front of these more scaled back paintings. In my not so humble opinion, the main characters look more in place in this world, and all the characters just look better in comparison. Backgrounds may look better with Snow White, but the entire product just looks more cohesive with Pinocchio, which means it receives #1 with animation. Character. Character building is strong in this movie, with the exception of Fairy Fix-It-All. All of these characters are grounded in imperfection. Each character is relatable because each character has flaws. Pinocchio is trying and always failing at being good. Geppetto loves his son and tries to protect him, but he's also an imperfect, inexperienced parent. None of these characters is completely black and white, but some of these characters are worse than others. Even the scenes I perceive as filler are useful. Just like scenes in a musical can help you understand characters, set the setting, or further the plot, so can filler help you accomplish these things. These establishing shots in Pinocchio help us to understand without any speaking at all that Geppetto lives on his own and has a lot of time to himself in which he makes toys and other trinkets. When he names and dances with lifeless Pinocchio, we understand he desires to have a child. For its pseudo-realistic characters, Pinocchio is #1 in character also. Technology. My favorite scene in this entire movie is the multiplane shot through the city. I can't imagine how difficult this scene had to be to shoot from one multiplane layer to another. And this was Disney's second feature-length film! Sorry, I just let my geek show. Needless to say, I love this scene, and you already know that I'm a huge fan of the multiplane camera. That puts Pinocchio in second place for technology. What? Second place, I hear you asking? Yes, even though I think this technology is mastered a little better than Snow White, Pinocchio is not the pioneer of this technology. Overall impression, Pinocchio is an incredible movie. The script and themes of this movie seemed surprisingly applicable for today's situations also. And I think it holds up very well as a serious film tackling serious issues. Averaging all these categories together, Pinocchio receives the #1 slot. What do you think? Does Pinocchio deserve this honor? Should it stay this way? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more content, and share this video to start your own conversations. Now carry on with whatever is more important than me. Or I have other videos too, you could definitely watch those if you want.